Gervonta Tank Davis has been a slave to the PBC for 12 years. He has not been moved correctly at all. And I'm going to prove it. Let's talk. Over the years, the PBC, the Premier Boxing Champions Club, that they have had multiple different ventures. Showtime, TNT, FS1, Fox, and now Amazon Prime, right? Just to name a few. In that, they've had so many fighters. And a lot of these fighters, the marquee fighters, weren't really done correctly. But Gervonta is standing by them, and there really is no reason to do it. Boxing is a business, y'all. It's an absolute business. But within the business of boxing, there is actual fighters. And I could go through a whole line of these guys. I can go through a whole line. But I'm not going to. I'm only going to go through a few. And I'll start with Errol Spence. Errol Spence ended up getting 3 belts under the PBC. He ended up getting the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF. He ended up getting those, right? So he got those, and you would think that it was a success. It was all a success is what you would think. The reality of that is, Errol Spence should have fought Keith Thurman a while ago. Like that WBA strap, Errol Spence should have had that, or Keith Thurman should have had it. Whatever, whoever y'all think would have won that fight is totally irrelevant. But those belts should have been consolidated. They should have been consolidated. There should have been those big fights. That big fight between Errol Spence and Keith Thurman should have happened, y'all. It should have happened when Errol Spence was at his peak, before the car injury, the eye injuries, and all the other stuff, you know, the drinking and stuff like that. Before it was a thing for him, before it was a thing, like before, you know, discipline kicked he was just a little bit undisciplined with that thing. And it's man down over here. But this is the truth. They should have made that fight, y'all. They should have made that. It shouldn't have been Errol Spence struggling to unify the damn belts and have to wait for Ugas to get it, you know, and Sean Porter didn't really want to fight, have to wait. It's like, no, you got to go through all these motions to get it. So then by the time you fight the biggest fight of your career of Terrence Crawford, you've already been through all these things, these issues, and outside the ring issues, not inside the ring issues, outside the ring issues. Yeah, that's on the PBC, man. That's on those guys. They should have forced that fight. That fight was good for their interest. It was good for all parties involved. It would have boosted PBC because it's an in-house fight. So you're winning on both sides. You're winning. It's not like it's a cross promotion where you're promoting the ops. No, you're promoting PBC. Keith Thurman was a PBC fighter. Errol Spence, PBC fighter. You're promoting PBC. You smash the gas. You force that fight to happen. It's an in-house fight. You make the fight. It's crazy because PBC didn't even want Errol Spence to fight Terrence Crawford, and then stopped the fight. They didn't force the fight between Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. They didn't want. That is not the mark of a good promotional company, bro. That's not you. You're pushing these fights because that boosts you. That boosts you as the best fighting the best. You had all the best competition, and you just don't make them fight. They're all right there. If you have LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all in the exact same era, all in their primes, and you just say, well, y'all don't got to play each other. If y'all want to, you can. I mean, you don't have to. You know, if Jordan goes to the finals, Kobe doesn't got to go against him in the finals. He's fine. If Kobe gets to the LeBron, then you guys don't have to. If you don't want to, it's your decision. Your decision. That is the worst strategy in the world, and it cost Errol. There should have been an undisputed champion well in advance of when Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence fought. There should have been an undisputed champion. You had 3 belts on one side and 1 belt on the other. As soon as Errol Spence won a belt, the next fight that y'all should have been smashing the gas for is Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, because Pacquiao was available and Errol Spence had won a belt. So Errol Spence was the IBF champion and Pacquiao was the damn WBO. That's the belt that you should have smashed. You should have smashed the gas for. Without question, unification. Because if you get that Pacquiao belt, when Pacquiao was towards his prime, maybe towards the end, but he's still in it. So if Errol Spence beat Pacquiao, Errol Spence at that point is a superstar. He already had the drawing power. He's a superstar at that time. An absolute superstar. So then you unify all your fights or unifications in-house. All of them are in-house. But instead, you unify with Manny Pacquiao. I mean, you unify with Sean Porter. If you could have got that Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao, superstar. If you couldn't, then you should have got Errol Spence versus Jeff Horn. Just to, even if you have to eat it a little bit. Because, you know, Bob Arum is a snake and he's going to want to have the big side for him. Whatever. It's just to get that belt, to wrestle that belt. Because once you get that belt away from Jeff Horn, which Errol Spence would have annihilated him, once you get that belt from Jeff Horn, then bam, all these other fights are all on your side. Every last one of them. The Keith Thurman fight, the damn Sean Porter fight, those are in-house unifications for undisputed. That's in-house. All in-house. That is right there, lined up. And even if Terrence Crawford would have moved up to fight for the WBO belt, right? He would have had to have fought Errol Spence before Errol Spence had a car crash, before he had the eye injuries, before all that, before any excuse, any issue. He would have to fight him then, because he wouldn't have been able to just move up and just fight Jeff Horn, which was the weakest of the weakest. That is PBC's fault. I don't blame Bud for that. He went out, he saw the easiest bag, and he went and got it. I blame the PBC. And them knowing that Errol Spence wants that, they should have smashed the gas. I know Errol Spence said he's going to clean up his side of the street and then go get that belt. I understand that. But you didn't even allow him to clean up his side of the street because you didn't force the Keith Thurman fight. That's just the other option. You could have forced the Keith Thurman fight. So again, he would have been 3 belts before the car crash. If you forced the Keith Thurman fight. Mike Tyson did it in a year. There would have been nothing stopping Errol Spence from getting a belt from Kell Brook and coming back and unifying right away. Within 3-4 months, unifying right away with Keith Thurman. Nothing stopping that fight. Nothing at all. And then after that, Danny Garcia moving up, getting a WBC, or maybe if Keith Thurman had the unified, well, there you go. You got 3 belts right there with Keith Thurman. Then the only one left is Jeff Horn. So if Terrence Crawford moved up, fought Jeff Horn, Terrence Crawford's very next fight and Errol Spence's very next fight would have been a unification for undisputed. There wouldn't have been no car crash, wouldn't have been no eye injuries, nothing. It would have been prime for prime with no excuse, no nothing. And whoever won that fight, then they won that fight, right? And that would have gave them time for the rematch to actually materialize. This is PBC's doing. And Gervonta saw all this unfold, and yet he's still there riding it out. Like, I mean, so then if we even was to move on from this, right? If we was to move on from this and we go to the next fighter, then I would bring up Deontay Wilder. I'd bring up Champ, bro. Like, bro, Deontay Wilder, everybody knew exactly what he wanted. One face, one name, one champion. That's what he wanted. Now, Shelly Finkel might not have been a PBC manager all the way around, because he managed Vladimir Klitschko and he managed Deontay Wilder at the exact same time. Shelly Finkel managed undisputed at heavyweight. He managed all 4 belts. Deontay Wilder had the WBC. He managed Wilder. Vladimir Klitschko had the other 3. He managed him. You mean to tell me PBC couldn't put no pressure on Shelly Fingal to make that fight with Deontay Wilder and Vladimir Klitschko for undisputed in 2015? So Tyson Fury would have been Deontay Wilder's mandatory in the prime of his career. Like, he would have been his Mando back then. You allowed Vladimir Klitschko to fight Tyson Fury instead of getting undisputed under the PBC. And that's just the start of it. After that debacle where Vladimir Klitschko lost to Fury and Fury got on drugs and vacated all the belts and all the belts were scattered all over the place. And then Joseph Parker got one, Charles Martin got one, and then the WBA was flapping in the wind with Louis King Kong Ortiz as the Mando for it. The PBC didn't do Deontay Wilder right, bro. They didn't do this man right. You had Charles Martin right there. Charles Martin, the IBF champion, Charles Martin. He was right there. And instead of putting the IBF champion on the PBC with the WBC champion on the PBC, you allowed him to go to Matchroom. How is that doing your fighter any favor? That's not doing him any justice. You're not helping your fighter out. He's been telling everybody one face, one name, one champion his entire career. And you had the opportunity to unify Deontay Wilder and Charles Martin. The WBC and IBF, you had that opportunity and you gave it to Matchroom, which then put Joshua and is the A side over Deontay Wilder when Wilder was a champion before Joshua. You literally made your own fighter the B side. You got your own fighter ridiculed, slandered. You got your own fighter dragged in the mud. Because if Deontay Wilder and Charles Martin would have fought, well, then the logical next step would have been for Deontay to fight Louis King Kong Ortiz, of which he ended up fighting anyway, for the WBA strap. That would have been the logical thing. Now, Vladimir Klitschko, the WBA said they'll allow Vladimir Klitschko to come back and fight anybody for the WBA strap. Vladimir Klitschko was supposed to fight Louis King Kong Ortiz for the WBA strap. They allowed Vladimir to unify with Anthony Joshua. But there wouldn't have been a unification if the PBC didn't allow Charles Martin to go over there, because Wilder would have knocked Charles Martin's spark out in the first round. He knocked him straight out. He would have been the WBC and IBF champion. So the unification would have been the fight that set up between Wilder and Klitschko for the 3-belt WBA, WBC, and IBF. That would have been Wilder and Klitschko, not Klitschko and Joshua. It would have been Wilder and Klitschko. And if Klitschko did fight Joshua, it would have just been for the WBA, and that's it. That's it. That's all it would have been. So even if that scenario would have came to fruition, then he would have fought Klitschko for the WBA, and then he would have fought Joseph Parker for the WBO. Or, hell, Joseph Parker might have wanted to fight Deontay Wilder since Wilder had 2 belts. So Parker and Wilder would have happened back then for 3 belts. You don't know what would have been on Parker's mind, because it didn't make sense. I mean, it made more sense, to fight Joshua, who had 2 belts, than to fight Wilder, who had 1 belt. So he ended up fighting Joshua. Well, if Wilder had 2 belts, he might have fought Wilder for the 2 belts. So then either Joseph Parker would have beat him back then and had 3 belts, or Wilder would have sparked him back then and he would have had 3 belts, which would have set up the biggest fight in boxing between Wilder and Joshua. And that would have been bigger than anything Fury did. Anything Usyk did. That was the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing history back then. The ones before that would have the Rumble in the Jungle type stuff. Tyson Holyfield, Tyson Lewis. That was comparable to that between Wilder and Joshua back then. 2 undefeated fighters, with Joshua beating Vladimir Klitschko for the WBA and Wilder beating Parker for the WBO and Martin for the IBF, and become the WBC from Stavern. Bro, it's the PBC that scrapped that. The PBC scrapped that, bro. The PBC took that and threw it in the trash. They did that, man. it's not even just champ, bro. We can move on. We can go to David Benavidez, bro. David Benavidez is a PBC fighter that has been trying to fight Canelo forever. Forever. Now, I understand it takes Canelo Alvarez to want to do it. He didn't want to fight Terrence Crawford at all. But he was given the money, and bam, here it is. Here he is right now. He didn't want to fight William Skull. He didn't care about Skull. He didn't care about Crawford. He didn't care about those guys. Numbers talk. If you give him the number that he can't refuse, he'll be fighting William Skull and Terrence Crawford instead of Jake Paul for $100 million. Because that's what he's doing. Y'all had the opportunity to do this, and you didn't. Even when this man was the mandatory, you didn't force it. Even when he was the mandatory, you didn't force it. So it's like, bro, you've got all these opportunities to make these things happen, and you've done literally none of them. Which then leads me right back to the topic at hand. Gervonta Tank Davis. Bro, they moved this man like cheeks. They moved him, bro, they moved him horrible. Horrible. Now, he may say, hey, no, I think they moved me right. He don't know any better. He doesn't know any better. This dude is a child in the business. He's a child. He's only been with the PBC his whole career, whether it was under About Billions, which was tied to the PBC, or under TMT, which was tied to the PBC, or now under GTD, which is tied to the PBC. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't understand his leverage at all. Doesn't understand it. And he can have leverage with the PBC, with Amazon, with whoever. He can have leverage. If he says, I'm going over here. I'm going over here. If you don't give me X amount of dollars, I'm going over here. Do you guys understand that Amazon Prime Boxing would literally go out of business without Tank Davis? They don't have anybody else. They would go out of business. Literally. And they wouldn't even care about going out of business either, because Amazon, this is just a venture for them. It's not like they need boxing in Amazon. There's a $1 trillion company. They don't give a damn about this. This is just a venture. They would be like, oh, you're going over there? All right, we'll just end this. No, we'll just end it. No matter to us. They're a $1 trillion company, bro. We'll do something else with sports. We don't need boxing. We'll do something else. But he's got leverage still, because he could say, well, if you don't give me this bread, I talked to Turkey and them, and they're willing to offer me $100 million. So are you going to offer me $100 million? And if PBC says no, well then, okay, if boxing is a business, then treat it like a business. Because you're not treating it like a business at all. And people keep telling me, oh, come on, BF. He's got loyalty to Al. It's loyalty to Al and loyalty to Al. Well, let's talk about what the loyalty to Al got him. Let's talk about that. Loyalty to Al Heyman for Gervonta did not make him a unified champion. He said he wanted to be a unified champion. That's what he said he wanted to be. It didn't make him unified. Is he a pay-per-view star? Sure. But he would have been that, a bigger one, if he unified. And he had the opportunities to do it. 100% opportunities to do it. Let's start at 130. When he beat Pedraza, his star power shot through the ceiling. Right then. Right then, through the ceiling. If you didn't want to fight Lomachenko at that time, sure, no problem. There was other champions you could have unified with. Literally other champions. There was four total belts. You only had one. If you didn't want to fight Lomachenko yet, no problem. Fight your mandatory. Right? You went over to the UK and fought your mandatory. You beat Liam Walsh. Right? Come back and unify. Now here, let me get a little bit more in depth. Gervonta Tank Davis from Baltimore should have fought all of his fights before he fought Jose Pedraza. All of them should have been in Baltimore. This man has a phenomenal fan base. It would have been insane if all of his fights were in Baltimore. All of them. And then, just same way Roy Jones did. All of his fights was in Florida. If all of this man's fights was in Baltimore, bro, insane fan base. And then his first fight outside of Baltimore would have been Jose Pedraza. Baltimore would have traveled ridiculously. And that would have been the first fight for the trial to test his drawing power. The next fight, you go overseas. That was smart to go overseas and fight Liam Walsh in the UK, right? You test his drawing power with that. Your next fight after you fought Liam Walsh should have been right back. It should have been your homecoming. You didn't do your homecoming until 2 fights and 2 years later after you won the title. How was that a homecoming? No, you go home with the woman you came to the party with. If you built him in Baltimore and then he went out of Baltimore, won a title, went overseas to defend his title, that's very smart. And then came back and did a homecoming. His first title defense, not his mandatory, because we understand that's a build, but his first title defense at home is a homecoming, literally a homecoming in the Royal Farms Arena. Bro, you could have made the tickets whatever price you wanted. Everybody would have came out. The mayor probably would have gave a holiday or on Friday so everybody can be there for Saturday. It would have been that big. Just a homecoming fight, the Ricardo Nunez or whatever, the homecoming fight. And then your next fight is the unification. You're with Floyd Mayweather, you're a draw. And the unification becomes your first pay-per-view. That's your first pay-per-view. You're with Floyd Mayweather. That is your first pay-per-view, a unification. That one could have been in Vegas. Your first pay-per-view in Vegas. Right? Now you unified. You unified the WBA and not with the bum Jesus Cuellar that you used when this dude was freaking 2 years off and coming off a loss. No, you actually fight the real champion, the real WBA champion, bro. You fight the real WBA champion. You beat the real WBA champion and you unify at 130. You are now astronomically bigger than Vasyl Lomachenko. Astronomically bigger. You have taken it over right then. Right then, bro. When Gervonta would have unified, if the PBC would have moved him like this and he unified right then, right? You have now beat Pedraza. You're a superstar. You went overseas. You beat Liam Walsh. You got some UK fan base. You came back. You solidified your actual base in Baltimore. A homecoming fight in Baltimore, defending your title. Your very next fight is your first Vegas fight, and it's a unification. And you do it in the MGM under Floyd Mayweather's tutelage, where he was dominating the scene back then. So in the MGM, Floyd Mayweather's his up-and-coming guy is unifying against in the WBA. The WBA is part of the damn PBC anyway. So you could have got the real champion. Bam, there's your unification. You are now the IBF and the WBA unified champion. You are a pay-per-view draw right there. Floyd Mayweather was still fighting. He hadn't even fought old boy yet. He hadn't even fought. Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He had fought his last was 2017. So Floyd Mayweather would have been the guy, right, that's pushing you, which he pushed you as it was to be what you are right now. But what you are right now, you would have been that when you unified. What you are right now, that unification would have been your first pay-per-view fight when you unified, and back in 2019. That would have been your first pay-per-view. Every fight from then to now would be pay-per-view fights. Every single one. From then to now, pay-per-view. Every one. Every single one. When you unified the WBA and IBF, the next was the WBC, and then after that was Lomachenko and the WBO. So if Lomachenko, which he did end up moving up, if Lomachenko would have moved up, they wouldn't have looked at as you ducking Loma, because you're the unified champion. They would have looked at Loma ducking you. So why is Loma moving out of 130 when Gervonta is a unified champion? Why are you leaving the division? If you want undisputed and you want to fight Gervonta Tank Davis, bro, wait your turn. He has proven that he's unifying. He just unified. He just unified. So the conversation wouldn't have been, oh man, he's ducking. He don't want no smoke. No, it would have been, man, Tank is he's gonna fight Lomachenko for undisputed in one of the biggest fights in boxing history. They would have been saying, hey, Lomachenko, why aren't you getting the WBC belt from Berchelt? Why aren't you going after Miguel Berchelt to get the WBC belt? Why aren't you doing that? That's what they would have said. And that right there would have bigged up the fight for Gervonta to take Miguel Berchelt from Lomachenko. Because Gervonta, he would have made more money with Gervonta Tank Davis. So then here you are, another Vegas fight. Tank versus Miguel Berchelt. Another one. And you could have did that one on like Cinco de Mayo or the Mexican holiday in September. Because Miguel Berchelt is Mexican. So you could have did that then. Now you knock out Miguel Berchelt. You have 3 belts at 133. It doesn't even matter if you fight Lomachenko at this point. You should. But if it doesn't matter if you don't, because if Lomachenko moves up, they're looking at Loma as a duck. You ran from Tank. Tank Davis just unified all 3 belts, and you know you were next, but you ran. That would have been the conversation, and the PBC could have pushed that, and they didn't. Oh no, BF, he was with Floyd, blah, blah, blah. Well, Floyd with the PBC. Al Heyman got influence. A lot of it. Doesn't Floyd say Al Heyman is like his dad? Yes. Yes, absolutely. So after that, now even if he doesn't become undisputed at all, he's unified, 3 belts, unified champion. He could then go to 135 and challenge Lomachenko right away. Right away. You ran from me. You ducked me. You went to 135. You beat Jorge Linares. You got the title, the WBA title, and the lineal championship. You got those. All right, cool. Now I'm moving up, and I'm challenging you right away. Right away. Right away. I'm not fighting Gamboa. No, I'm fighting you. Right away, I'm fighting you. So Tank Davis moves to 135 and fights Vasyl Lomachenko. Lomachenko at this time was the WBA, the lineal champion, and I want to say at this time he had also jumped in front of Devin and became the WBC franchise. Yes. So Gervonta fights him. Then, no, he was WBO. I'm sorry. He was a WBA and WBO because he had fought Pedraza for the WBO title. So now Tank moves up because you go to distance with Pedraza. Tank destroyed Pedraza. So Tank moves up and fights Lomachenko, goes after Lomachenko right away. The PBC moves him up and goes after Loma right away. They should have all the confidence in the world. You went the distance with Pedraza. Tank destroyed Pedraza. All these things that they be saying, when Tank be like, listen, what does that tell you? Or Floyd say, oh, well, you know, he went the distance with Tank's leftovers. Tank knocked this guy out. Then what does that tell you? Well, prove it. The PBC had the opportunity to prove it. You then move up to 135. You fight Lomachenko for the WBA, WBO, and lineal championship. You knock out Lomachenko. You are the lineal champion, the WBA and WBO. That's what you are. That is a pay-per-view fight, gigantic. It probably has 1 million pay-per-view buys. That is probably his first or second $1 million pay-per-view buy. That's his first or second. First or second, because he probably would have did 1 million pay-per-view buys when he unified with Miguel Berchelt. That unification with the for the IBF and the WBA, that right there probably would have did 300, 400,000 pay-per-view buys. 300 to 400. The 3 belt one, 1 million. Because people would have been looking at the next one as Lomachenko. So then when he moved up to fight Lomachenko, that would have did his 2nd million. You now have fights caked in. Caked in. You now beat Lomachenko. You're the lineal champion. You're the WBA and WBO champion. You have the IBF and the WBC belt. Now that means Devin would have actually fought Luke Campbell for the WBC title. So it would have never been no email conversation. And Teofimo Lopez would have beaten Richard Comey for the IBF, which would have set up Gervonta Tank Davis versus Devin where they got history. The sparring would have came up and blah, blah, blah. That would have been his 3rd $1 million pay-per-view buy. and then Teofimo Lopez for undisputed yet again. Another shot at it. That would have been his $4th $1 million pay-per-view, a million pay-per-view buy. That would have been 4 right there. They moved him horribly. Those gates, astronomical gates. Those purses for him, astronomical purses. They were paying this man $1 million, bro. You got to make your bread on the back end. Those fights that I just mentioned, those are $15, $20 million guarantees for him. Plus back end. They've been robbing this man for years. 4 years. Robbing this man. So let's say he doesn't get Devin. Right? But he gets Teo. That's still that's $3 million gates. Every other fight that you fight, if it isn't Devin or anybody else, if it's Rolly, the numbers are higher automatically just because you're not averaging 200,000 pay-per-view buys, 300,000 pay-per-view buys. You're averaging 800,000 pay-per-view buys, 1 million, 7 on a low end. Because of what you did at 130 when you translated it over. So now you're competing at 135. Guess who pulls up? Shakur. Shakur pulls up. What does that do? Shakur and Devin fight because now Devin only got 1 belt. He is subject to the WBC's 30%. He only got 1 belt. So Shakur is his mandatory. Here's your 30%. I'm not giving you nothing more. I don't give a fuck if you go petition for anything else. I'm not giving you nothing. This is what you're getting. And if you don't take it, that's fine. I'm moving up anyway. So now here's your 30%. You can petition. The same thing plays out. Devin moves up, fight Regis. Shakur Stevenson fights for the WBC. Because he's a diva and he believes that he's bigger than Devin, so he believes he should get more money, and he doesn't get it. Well, now he's WBC champion. So if Tank didn't fight Devin for yet another million gate, but he fought Teo, which he more likely would have, right? Because that would have been Bob Arum trying to get his get back from the Lomachenko loss with Tank Davis. He's been trying to get his get back. So you got that fight. That's $1 million pay-per-view. That's now 4. Then if you don't get Devin and you get Shakur, that's 5 million pay-per-view, $1 million pay-per-view buy gates, or $20-30 million gates plus $1 million pay-per-view buys. That's 5 of them. You move up for 1 fight to 140. The 1 fight is Josh Taylor. That is the 1 fight. You move up for 1 fight, Josh Taylor, the undisputed champion at 140. You starch Josh Taylor. You are now undisputed at 140, unified at 30, 3 belts, 30, and then 3 belts at 35. You can then go back down to 35 and say, I'm going to stay at 35 and campaign. Okay, well, you don't got to drop your belts to go up for 1 fight to fight Josh Taylor at all. You could keep your belts. You could have kept your belts at 35, moved up for 1 fight to fight Josh Taylor. What they say? Undisputed versus undisputed. Undisputed versus undisputed. Didn't Floyd Mayweather defend 2 belts at one time against Pacquiao? Yes, he did. He did. 47 and 54. Because he was the 154-pound champion and the 47-pound champion. So he defended both of those division belts at 1 fight with Pacquiao. People don't talk about that much, but he did. Gervonta could have did the same thing. Floyd Mayweather laid the blueprint already. Tank could have did the same thing. He could have moved up and fought Josh Taylor, right? Held on to all 3 belts in 1 fight, fought Josh Taylor for undisputed. After he fought Josh Taylor and beat him, vacate all the belts at 140, move back down to 135 and campaign. You still are 1 fight away from undisputed at 135. And that's how the PBC could have moved him. Every last one of those fights, all of it, Josh Taylor, that's another $1 million pay-per-view with a $20 million gate in Vegas. Another one. That is now like 5 or 6 million pay-per-view buys. 5 or 6, upwards of $10 to $20 million gates. The records that this man would have been setting would have been astronomical at this time. He would have been on pace, literally on pace to surpass Floyd Mayweather's numbers, or at least get up there to match them. He would have passed him already in accolades. Passed him. Not with the multiple champions that he fought, but the quantity, the quality, not the quantity, the quantity. He would have been a unified champion at 30, if not undisputed. He would have beaten his contemporary in his prime. Floyd waited till the end of his career to fight Pacquiao. Well, that was mainly Pacquiao's fault, but still, it was still the end of his career. Tank would have fought Loma in both of their primes. In both of their primes. So beating Loma in his prime at 135 to become the lineal king, that would have made Tank the lineal king in 3 weight classes. 30, 35, and 40. This man would be solidified, legitimate, straight walking Hall of Famer. But the PBC crapped on all that. And this man is loyal to them because he doesn't know any better. He don't know what's out there. He has no idea. This man hasn't left his mother's tit yet. He has no idea what's out there because he hasn't gone out there to get it. He don't realize that there's a bigger bag out there. And if he threatened to go out there and him being in that pathway, he followed that pathway. The PBC moved him that way. If he threatened, they give him even more money for him to stay. Even more. And if he would have if the PBC would have moved him that way, everybody under him on the card would have gotten more shine. All of them would have got more shine. They all would have got bigger paydays because they were on his card. He doesn't owe them anything. So for you guys running around here talking about, oh, Tank's got to be loyal. It's business. Business, bro. It is business. Business. The killer of business is loyalty. Unless the business is loyal to you. They're not. They cost this man tens and tens, 20s and 20s, if not $100 million. They cost him so much money, man. And he's fine with it because he doesn't know any better. He doesn't realize, bro, Devin been making way more money than this man, and y'all know it, but y'all won't admit it. Shakur Stevenson's making more money than this man. Y'all know it, but you won't admit it. Because y'all, Tank Davis making 90, 80 million, $100 million. No, he's not, bro. No, he isn't. This man is getting small guarantees, and he's making his money on the back end. Well, guess what? He could get big guarantees and still make his money on the back end. Facts. The back end bread means there's no guarantee you're going to get it. Hence the terminology, guaranteed bread. Here is your guaranteed money. Gervonta deserves 10, 15 million guaranteed. He deserves to have that. He is the only really star over there at the PBC. It's just him. And you are still giving him $2, $3 million and then go ahead and make your money on the back end off of your star power, off of your draw power, off of you. Make your money off of you. Bro, he can do that everywhere else. He can still make his money off. The fans are going to watch him wherever he's at. The PBC is robbing him. Robbing this man. Robbing him. Oh, man, BF, he made $50 million to fight Ryan Garcia. Yeah, he should have been making that. He should have been making that. That shouldn't have been the first time. If the PBC and Floyd and the PBC moved him the way I just said, bro, he would have made that at 130 or close to it. 35, he would have been making that on a regular at 35 with what I said. His highest bag might have been Josh Taylor at 140 for Undisputed in his very first fight. He might have made $100 million for that fight. That's his third division unified, going for the Undisputed in his first fight there. Him being a super draw already, doing $1 million pay-per-views. 10, 15, $20 million gates already. He might have made $100 million in that fight. In that fight alone. They've been robbing this man for years. And this dude talk about loyalty, and all of his fans talk about being loyal. Being loyal to who? A thief? You're being loyal to the guy robbing you? Make that make sense. You're being loyal to the guy robbing you. If Al Heyman knows better, why isn't he doing better? Come on, man. You got to trust in Al Heyman, trust in Al. Listen, bro, I'm not knocking that, man. I'm just calling it for what it is. If you know better, you do better. If you know that Tank Davis beats these guys, and you know that Tank Davis is the money man, he's going to make a lot of money, even if he don't want to do it, you let him know, hey, man, there's more money in this. You know better. You know, y'all are coddling this dude. You're babying this guy. It's okay. You don't gotta fight, Devin. It's okay. No, no, Shakur, no, you don't need it. It's okay. No problem. You can leave Tio. No, Tio is a nobody. It's all right. Take this $5 million. It's still $5 million. You're a millionaire. Don't worry about the $50 million you could have made. It's okay. No problem. That's what y'all are doing. And y'all are sitting over there talking about, oh, nah, man, GTD over everybody. Okay. Well, shouldn't he get paid for that? He should get paid to be GTD over everybody. He's not. This man is making $1 million, $2 million guaranteed. And then making up his bread, $20 million, $30 million on the back end, if that. When in reality is, he should be getting $20 million guaranteed. And then $30 million on the back end. Every fight. He has been getting robbed for years. The money is still there, but who's getting it? Because it damn sure ain't him. It's not him getting it. So who's making that money? That money is there. It is absolutely there. And if he's not getting it, the people that are kissing his ass and talk about, man, you're such a loyal guy, man. You got to be loyal to us. They're saying that because they're getting that money. Yeah, he's getting $2 million guaranteed, maybe 5 of a $20 million bag. That $15 million is getting bust down with everybody else that's coaching this nigga and kissing this dude's ass to stay there. And you're loyal, man. Be loyal. You got to be loyal to us. Be loyal. Got this man, yeah, I'm loyal. I'm a loyal guy. I'm loyal. So you don't see anybody that's getting that $15 million that's broken down, be split up between him. You don't see those guys standing in front of the camera getting shitted on the way Tank is for being looked at as a coward. You don't see Tom Brown being called a coward. Al Heyman don't even speak to y'all. He don't speak to nobody. The only person that bears the brunt is the slave, Gervonta Tank Davis. He bears the brunt. He is the one that's in front of the cameras. He is the one that they're looking at. Oh, yeah, all the bright lights. Oh, Tank is stall. Gervonta Tank Davis, he is stall. Nobody's calling Leonard Ellerbe a damn coward for keeping Tank away from everybody. Nobody. At all. And he can smell the fear. He can smell it in the questions. When they're asking this man, well, Leonard Ellerbe, why isn't he fighting Devin and Shakur and Teofimo Lopez? Why isn't he? This man be like, well, listen, okay, listen, because what y'all say, listen, are we gonna pay them? We're not. Listen, Tank is star. Tank, how he gonna do what he want to do? And the interviewers be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because they don't want to not be able to interview with Leonard Ellerbe in the future. They don't want to ask this man any tough questions. They have been robbing Gervonta for years, for 12 straight years, robbing that man, robbing him. He's been 12 years a slave. Facts. Because this man should have boatloads more bread than what he has right now, and boatloads more notoriety. Nobody should be calling him a coward. Nobody should be looking at this man as if this dude's a damn duck. As skilled as he is, even if he lost, it doesn't matter. And nobody would care. His fans wouldn't care. They wouldn't care if he lost, because he was trying for greatness. Bro, they moved the goalposts right now. His whole fan base knows what it is. They know what this man looks like, but they out here capping for this man every single day. They wouldn't need to. Their whole conversation and narrative would be completely different. It would be not that Tank's a coward and a fraud, and why isn't he fighting the top guys? It would have been, no. Listen, bro, he lost to a top guy, though. It was a top guy. This was one of the guys that y'all say is one of the best he lost to. So what? Look at his resume. Look at his career. Look what he's accomplished. A loss that doesn't make you. Doesn't make you. It doesn't break you. So what? He can bounce back. That is their narrative. And if he won, good night, what they would be saying. Put a crown this man. It will be the King of England, King George, and then he will be doing visits to King Tank. 2 monarchs. If that's they would have crowned this man. They would have put this. It would have been Jesus, King George, and Tank Davis. That's what they would have did. For as much as they glaze this man right now, they would have made Gervonta a religion. He has been getting robbed for years. And he still is. But I know y'all are not going to listen to me. Y'all just going to move the goalposts again. No, BF, you're wrong. He's not getting locked. He's not getting, no. It's not what happens. Oh, no, he's not. Whatever, man. It is not my job to change your mind. It's my job to give y'all the facts. BFTB, man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And I'm out. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, subscribe to my Patreon. And if you feel like supporting me, please support me in the PayPal or the Cash App.